Tantra is not a religion, and this is a very important distinction to make because there's often confusion surrounding what the cultural context of Tantra is. Many people assume that if you practice Tantric yoga, you have to do it within the Indian religious tradition, which many people call Hinduism. Some people call it Sanatana Dharma. But this is not true. Tantra is not a religion. Tantra has always been defined as a system, and in modernity it is often referred to as a science for the exploration of consciousness and the expansion of consciousness. Now, that means that Tantra is not limited to any one culture, any one particular cultural context. Tantra is not the same as Hinduism, even though they both developed within India, and the Tantrics often utilize gods and symbols and practices that are drawn from Hinduism. They are not the same thing. Tantra is also distinguished from the Vedic culture. The Vedic culture was the basic religious structure of the ancient Indian society. It is not the same as Tantra, which developed later. Now, Tantra is a perennial system. So when I say that it developed after the Vedic culture, what I mean to say is that the practices that we know as Tantra were formalized and given a name, Tantra and Yoga, after the establishment of the Vedic culture. That's not to say that Tantra is a newer system. It's not. It's very ancient. In fact, I would say that it is outside of the cycle of time. It's something that you can tap into, and every major culture in human history has had some form of tantric practice. And they may have called it something else, but it's the same idea of exploring and understanding consciousness, willfully manipulating consciousness from a material foundation. So, for example, in the Norse tradition, we have Seiðr, which is different from Norse paganism. Norse paganism, or the religion of the Norse, is a religion. It is a cultural system that is organized as a religious experience that people can tap into, and it is something that is generally accessible to common people and uncommon people alike. Seiðr is different. Seiðr is a system for exploring and expanding consciousness. And in ancient Norse culture, it was not considered part of the mainstream religious establishment. And in fact, it generated a lot of controversy. If you practice Seiðr, especially as a man, that was considered an unmanly or a dishonorable practice. Much in the same way that Tantric yoga within modern India is considered to be sort of like a no-count, bad reputation practice. If you practice Tantra, you are oftentimes treated like a witch, and that's because Tantra is also witchcraft. That's another name for Tantric yoga, witchcraft. Now, witchcraft, Tantra, Vodou, Seiðr, all of these practices, they are not confined to the religious social order, the taboo, the expectation of the religiosity of the cultures that they were developed within. If you're a tantric in India and you're practicing yoga, you might draw most of your inspiration from Hinduism in terms of engaging with spirituality, but you're not limited to Hinduism. You can be a tantric in India and you can draw from other religious systems, other spiritual practices. You can draw from modern science. You can draw from physics, mathematics. You can draw your practice from pop culture if you'd like. There is no expectation within Tantric Yoga for you to take up a specific religion or to have any religion at all. And that's the same for the practice of Seiðr in the Norse tradition. It's the same for European witchcraft. It's the same for the practice of Vodou. All of these traditions are very flexible in the way that you're able to apply them. So if you want to practice Tantric Yoga, there is no need for you to take up any sort of religious tradition, and there's no need for you to confine yourself to any one specific cultural expression. You are free to explore. That's the whole idea of Tantric Yoga. We explore, we experiment, we expand, and we try to do so without dogma. And we try to escape this taboo because we want to be able to see ourselves holistically and see things within us that otherwise might be covered up by religious dogma. Not always, but it might be. So if you want to practice Tantric Yoga, consider this, that this system, this science of expanding and exploring consciousness is one that is the most open, the most free exploration of consciousness. It is not confined to any secular dogma or religious dogma. In fact, it encourages you to challenge dogma and to see yourself fully in unification. That is the entire goal of yoga.